We are ready to rock and roll. So today we're going to talk about how to finish up OEP, what we're going to do for what they call rest of year, ROY. So you'll probably be getting, excuse me, some communications from your local reps talking about rest of year. So when you see information from these regional people from, Aetna, United, et cetera, and they say ROI, that's what they're mentioning is rest of year. So what that basically means is anything that's outside of AEP and OEP. And that's pretty much what we're getting into. We've got about 20 days, give or take, of OEP. So anybody with Medicare Advantage already that wants to switch can finish that out and make their final election for the rest of the year. But there are tons of populations that are eligible to make changes for rest of year, right? We'll start with the easiest to understand. That's turning 65, right? So, over the last, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, I have been talking about building relationships with local facilities, whether that be um, skilled nursing, whether that be doctor's offices, any of the places that I have previously mentioned. Um, Now is the time to really start fine tuning those relationships, right? Start going in there and talking about, um, you know, what we do, how we do it, how we sit down with the patient and make sure that we look at their overall health picture, which has to include their doctors, right? Which should make their doctors happy. And we want to make sure that they understand that we're going to do a good job with them, right? So if we have done our due diligence and we have built our relationships within the community, rest of year should be pretty good for you. You should start getting referrals. You should start getting people with questions, problems, things like that. So, what you'll want to do is make sure that you're tapping on all of those relationships. And if you haven't built those, you still got a little bit of time, right? You still got about 3/4 of a month to go out there and start talking to people who would house or provide services for the 65 and older community. So that's what I recommend you do as a priority number one, because you are going to want to make sure that you have those relationships established. So, starting out with turning 65. So, if you've built those relationships properly, and the office or location feels like you're an agent that's going to take care of that person, that should be an easy referral, right? You should also be looking to see if you can put literature inside of their locations, right? So, are you turning 65? Call me, right? Some of that literature is inside of the LBA website. So, if you're familiar with that, you should be able to run right into where we have those marketing pieces and just pull them out, put your information in that little block that I left open for you, and then um, either get referrals directly from the office or people will call you directly. So either way, that should work out good. So turning 65 is easy, right? Because they have that window. You've got 3 months from their age in or loss of group coverage to be able to put them on a plan. So the T65s are pretty easy. The other populations that we'll want to start to focus on now, and we'll want to switch gears a little bit from people who have existing coverage, although a lot of the people that I'm going to talk about will have coverage. Um, we're going to kind of switch our focus to a couple of particular groups. One being low income and the other being people with chronic illness issues, right? So this is where you need to start becoming familiar with the plans in your area, especially on the chronic side of things. So when it comes to rest of year, um, what I like to do is I like to pull up all the plans in my area, which I would have done way back in August, right? When they first start letting us see what the plans look like. And I make myself a spreadsheet. So here's some wisdom for you is build yourself an Excel spreadsheet that breaks down by plan, what type of plan it is. It's a DSNP or chronic or what have you, or regular plans. And start to fill in not only just the regular, what I call top four, which is your primary care visit cost, your specialist cost, your hospital cost, and your maximum out of pocket. But now we're going to start looking deeper into the plans. We're going to start looking at what we call ancillary benefits, right? Ancillary benefits are those benefits like dental, vision, meal cards, things like that. So when you start going into your lower income populations and you start meeting with them, right? They're probably going to not care as much about what plan gives them a zero copay because they all will. They're going to care more about what plan offers them the most benefit that they need, whether that be dental or vision or paying electric or a meal card or whatever. So, what I like to do is I like to build myself, like I said, an Excel spreadsheet, and I like to make sure that I know those numbers and what plans are associated with those numbers. So that way, when I have somebody that says, man, I'm really struggling to put food on my table. What plan has the biggest meal benefit, right? Or, man, I really have the need for um, a seat in my toilet, right? That would be an over-the-counter benefit. So what plan has the largest over-the-counter benefit? And so we need to start really diving deeper into the plans. And that's where if you have relied on, if you've relied heavily on Sunfire to kind of pick the plan for you, now we have to do the opposite of that, right? We have to understand what's inside of the plan. So between now and the first of the month, next month, my homework for you guys is to go into the plans that are near your area or the area that you service and look at the plan details of each plan that you guys are contracted with and look at the ancillary benefits. It's really important to understand what those are. When you're looking at Sunfire, Sunfire is going to be very good at telling you what the doctors are, what the medications are, things like that. But it's not going to do a great job of separating it by your ancillary benefits. So, if that's a really big, important thing, which these populations will want, we need to switch the way we think for the rest of the year. So it's funny how Medicare breaks down their different time periods, right? It's for us agents to understand what the populations that we're working with. So a T65, you'll do the same thing that you normally do. You'll run Sunfire the way you normally do. You'll get your doctors. You might look up medications. In my opinion, most of them will end up being the same, but you can throw them in there if you need to. But doctors are primarily important for your T65s. But for your other people that have special enrollments, specifically the chronic and the dual populations, they're probably going to be looking more heavily at the ancillary benefits than they are um, anything else. Okay. And that's true especially for your dual, because when you have a full dual, they don't have any copays anyway. So why would they care what company gives them a $0 copay to see their doctor? Because they all do, right? Okay, so this is an example of what the start would look like. So you got your plan, right? So on the top, you got the carrier, WellCare, Florida Blue, United Healthcare, Aetna, Care Plus, Humana, Centene. Um, and I just go down and I basically what I do is I take the plan details and I put it in a spreadsheet, right? So if you throw any of this information into something, right? And so, but let's say we had dental on this one, right? I can look at my dental line and say, okay, that one offers the most dental. Then I just need to go back and verify that their doctors are good to go, right? Or you can kind of do the opposite. Look at the doctors, see the plans, and then go through your spreadsheet and see which one is going to work best together. This one I did have the chance to do maximum out of pocket, right? So you can see right here, just from looking at the spreadsheet, that this H1045-026, 3100 maximum out of pocket with United Healthcare, right? Um, very low maximum out of pocket, right? So if I have somebody who's focused on maximum out of pocket, boom, right on my spreadsheet. Okay. This will save you a lot of time because, with Excel, you can have as many tabs as you want to, where with Sunfire, you can only compare three at a time, right? So it can take a little bit of time to get this set up, especially if you're working in multiple areas. However, I find that when you're working with clients, if you want to save yourself time, let's say 45 minutes it takes you to set this up, um, will save you hours for the rest of your clients that you work with. Okay. And then if you get in the practice of doing this, let's say September timeframe, right? And you have it ready for the following year as we go into OEP, then you'll be able to get quicker and quicker and quicker at your job. So just by show of hands, and you can hit the little hand button, how many of you spent more than an hour with a client? Yes. And a lot of that is, okay, let's read through, right? Sometimes it's conversation, and I don't ever want to go away from that. Conversation is critical when it comes to this, but how easy would it have been if while you're having your conversation with your client, you're able to look at something like this and know what doctors take what plans, what companies, and then be able to kind of pick what plan is going to make the most sense for them within that conversation that you're having, right? So I would never, and I think it's against CMS regulations still, unless the rules have changed again, I would never show something like this to a client. You're probably like, why? This makes my job easy. Well, because then it gets confusing. Then they get too wrapped up into all the numbers, right? We are supposed to be looked at as the experts, right? So there's no problem showing them Sunfire because Sunfire is essentially the same thing that they can do on Medicare.gov, but it should be our understanding of these plans, how they work, what their benefits are, more specifically the ancillary benefits, especially this time of year, on how to guide them, right? So as we're asking them questions about what's important to them, and if some things start to come out pretty even, right? So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So let's say that we are looking for a plan. They accept WellCare, they accept Aetna, and they accept Care Plus. Okay. So I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see a highlight here. Can you guys see where I'm graying out? So you see, I've got that broken up. Specialist is 0, and then 40, 0, 35. 0.30, 0.40, 0.45, all that. So those are relatively the same cost, right? I, for most people, except for low income, which are probably going to get assistance anyway, um, $5 is not going to break any of your clients, right? But it could be that $2,000 worth of dental or a 3,100 maximum out of pocket could save the day, right? So again, having a spreadsheet like this is something that I find is super helpful to help me with my clients. And I know we gave you a lot of stuff to do for open enrollment, right? AHIP, get all your certifications. Now we had a little bit of a break. Well, while you're doing your break, go ahead and get more certifications, right? And now we got OEP clients. Now we're starting to slow down with OEP a little bit. Now it's the time to build this chart for the rest of this year, right? And have it for any of your T65s, any of your low income, and any of your chronic plan people. And you can even build different tabs if that makes it easier for you, depending on how uh, how organized you are, right? But what's nice is once you build a template like this, you'll have this template for next year. So all you have to do is go in and change the numbers, and you'll have a template like this for years to come. So I know some of you are probably saying, "Gosh, this looks like a lot of work." Well, there's a little bit of work to be done with Medicare, right? Um, but I promise you the few minutes that you spend on this, and it really shouldn't take you more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half if you have to keep going back and forth, right? But it will save you so much time working with your clients. So don't forget, you can still do seminars, right? At senior centers, you can still do all kinds of things that will keep you engaged with clients. However, you have to know your you have to know your client. You have to know your products, right? And so one of my highest recommendations for right now is build yourself a chart that's similar to this. And if you're in multiple counties, so like you'll see here what counties, right? What counties they cover. So in this particular area, there's 4, 5 different counties, 6 different counties that I was working within with these products, right? And so as an agent who covered the whole state of Florida, I actually built several of these because you have like a North Florida version, you have a Central Florida version, you have a Central West version, you have a South Florida version, right? So I would actually label them accordingly, right? So this is North Florida. This is basically Duval and Clay, and then if they touched other counties, that's where I put it in there. So I would highly, highly recommend doing this. Okay. Especially if you have some free time. So I think everybody understands the importance of doing that, right? Um, Quick access to information. And for us, dealing with people who have, let's say, a 17-minute time span where they're going to give you your full attention, it's important to have something like that built so that when you say, hey, I'm ready to show you a plan that I think is going to be best, let me tell you why. Boom, boom, boom. You have that information. You can read right down the list, right? It's just like having a summary of benefits, but you have all the summary of benefits in one place, right? So if you use that in conjunction with Sunfire, so let's say you have Sunfire on one side of your screen and you have your Excel spreadsheet on the other side, you can really do some damage, right? You can go very, very, very quickly through your time with your clients, right? So from my perspective, what I see is that we have used AEP and most of OEP so far as a learning experience, right? We've learned how to we've learned how to navigate Medicare. Now it's time to learn how to do it quickly and efficiently and get people to the right place in a very quick, effective way. Um, and so that's my advice going into rest of year. Um, and you guys make me feel like I'm the best trainer in the world. I appreciate you guys because there's never any questions.
Trying to call you, Carl, a while ago.
Okay.
You probably saw me try. I guess our phone cut off when we were talking.
We did. I got another
So
phone call and it
I figured it's more important. That's
yeah.
fine. So I was trying to call you because so we can only do one change to Medicare Advantage plan in this January through March 31st, right?
Well,
Unless we do a SEP, a SEP for some other like wildfires in Texas.
right. OEP allows for one change between January and March 31st.
Okay.
If you need to change them again, you would have to use a different SEP.
Yeah,
Right.
because I just realized she can't use that doctor that she her doctor is not going to be on this plan. Something in Sunfire or something said she was, and then when we called the doctor's office, they said, "Oh, we're getting some calls about that. No, this doctor is not in that plan." So I found another way, and I'm going to have to do my like contracting before too long to get that taken care of. And then he
Gotcha.
wanted my doctor wanted MetLife. I just wanted to say that, and I found it on the Bader Scott and White health plan. I'm like, oh, there it is. I've been looking for it and I found it. So sometimes these problems lead to good things. And so I'm just like so happy about that.
Gotcha. So here's a more defined answer to your question. When somebody joins a plan, they always start their plan on the first of the month, right? So if you sign somebody up in the month of March to begin April 1st, and you find that there's a better plan for them, you don't rewrite them on a different plan. That's not how that works because the OEP will still take effect. What you do is you tell the client to call the company that you initially enrolled them in and retract or cancel their application and then write them on the OEP special enrollment. Okay. And that's
Wondered if
true.
there was a way to cancel that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true for any time frame except AEP, which that's the October 15th through December 7th. Any time outside of that, um, if you need to change plans or enrollment applications within the same month,
mhm.
you will have them cancel the first one. You can't do it as the agent; it has to be the member. You will have them call and cancel, and then you can write them using whatever SEP or enrollment election period that they had for the other plan.
But then it wouldn't start until May, right? It would be a May
No, still
1st.
start
You
April
can still
1st.
oh using the SCP. Oh, okay. All right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know that.
Okay. Um, Cynthia.
Hello, you call me?
Oh, okay, perfect. Cynthia. Okay.
Hi.
Um, Couple quick questions for you. Are you certified to sell?
If I am certified,
Yes. Have you certified with companies beyond the AHIP? Have you done certifications for like Humana, United, or any of the carriers,
I do for Obamacare,
but not for Medicare?
not for Medicare. I
Okay.
believe I started to get appointed. Um, it didn't go through.
Okay. And the reason I ask you that is you were asking for some one-on-one time. I don't mind giving that to you. I do kind of have a full plate right now. But the website itself that you use, the Sunfire, I actually don't train on. That is done through Spark, which I believe is Wednesday at 12, if I'm not mistaken. But once you get appointed with the carriers, they should be guiding you to the timeframes that they have that specific training. So if you have questions about how to sell Medicare or anything like that, that's what I'm here for. But to get you your basic stuff, that's kind of where Spark has, that's where we kind of draw the line between what I do and what Spark does. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, we can go over. I did get appointed with Aetna on the Medicare side. So
Okay.
we can, yeah, so yes, I'll go over the spots, but also, yeah, if I can have your number for the selling part, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Let me put my number in the chat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I would encourage you before you call me for some one-on-one, I would encourage you to call Spark and ask them when they do their next run of the Spark platform or the Sunfire platform, because I really my my Spark platform or my Sunfire platform is different than yours. So I do not train you guys on the platform itself, but I will train you on everything around the platform, if that makes sense. Got a couple people with raised hands. I think there was Sarah Jane Harris
Yes.
that
How you
had a
doing?
hand.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So, what do I do with a client who is already enrolled in an employee plan and wants to get enrolled?
In a Medicare plan?
Yes.
Okay. So, a couple caveats to that, right? So, if they have an employer plan and they have Medicare A and B in place, what we first need to do is explain to them that if they have drug coverage through their current plan, which they probably do, that it's going to take them off of that. Matter of fact, it's going to take them off of their entire employer plan. And most employers will not allow you to go back on the plan. So as long as they're okay with that, then you proceed. If they struggle with that concept, then we have to go very slow with that client and make sure we're doing the right thing for that client. But to give you the simple answer, you just write them and then they will come off of their employer plan because the drug coverage from Medicare will take them off of their employer coverage.
Okay, right now they don't have any Medicare. They are not enrolled into Medicare.
Okay, then they first
In
have to get
fact,
their Part
in
A and
fact,
Part B.
they'll be turning 65 in June.
Okay, so they should be getting some literature in the mail. It should be probably a little white card, looks like a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage them to look out for that. It should tell them something about do you want to enroll in Part A and or Part B? Tell them to check both boxes. Let them know that they're going to end up paying for Part B, right? And I think the national average right now, is the way I'll say this, is about $170 a month for Part B. And then that makes them eligible for any of the Medicare Advantage plans or Medicare supplements or standalone drug plans. And then your job would be to sit down with them and go through our process to see what's going to end up being the best option for them.
Okay.
Okay. But until they get their Medicare card, you will not be able to enroll them because you need that information to be able to enroll them. And their
Okay.
effective date, so if they're turning 65 in June, their effective date could be as early as June 1st, but not before. Even if they get their Medicare card before that.
Okay. Another question.
Okay.
Now, for somebody who already passed 65, maybe 66, 67, and haven't enrolled in any Medicare plan.
So they should have Part A automatically because there's no cost to it for most people. What they will have to do is reach out to Medicare or Social Security, either one,
Mm-hmm.
and tell them they want to sign up for Part B. Now, they will tell them when they will become eligible for their Part B to come into place. There's a lot of scenarios, but the most common one that I come across is um, letting Social Security know that they plan on having their coverage terminated on a certain date, let's say the month of May, right?
Mm-hmm.
So May 31st, their coverage will end. So they will need to have Medicare in place for June 1st. That way they can have their Medicare Advantage or supplement or whatever they're doing with their Medicare aligned with their original Medicare as well.
So is this for someone who already passed 65, maybe 66 or 67?
Right. And it could be any age. Now,
Oh.
there may be a penalty that they have to pay for not having coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So with people that are past 65 that have employer coverage, there may or may not be a penalty. So really what I do is I direct them to call Social Security and or Medicare and find out the details of what it would take to get on Part A and Part B, because our job is to work with them after they have Part A and Part B.
Okay.
Okay, so if you have somebody who doesn't have A and B yet, they're on an employer plan or whatever, most likely they already have Part A. They probably need to put their Part B in place, and they need to figure out with Social Security what time frame that will happen, and if there's any penalties that's associated with them not having their Part B um, in place already. Now, if they had good employer coverage, then there's probably not going to be a penalty. They did not have what they call qualifying coverage, then there's probably going to be a penalty. So it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but in the Medicare world, that makes a lot of sense because you have to have so many things going on to not have a penalty, right?
Mm.
And so I usually just direct them to call Social Security or Medicare and find out the details of what it would take to get their Part B, and then start working from them with them from there.
Okay. Are you able to give me the number for Medicare?
It's 1-800 Medicare. So if you look on
Okay.
a phone, it's got the little, ABC on the numbers. It's just 1-800 Medicare.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Laura, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I think that Sarah Jane and I were on the same page. I had similar questions. Um, Client getting ready to turn 65. She does have coverage and drug coverage with her current plan, with her employer.
Okay.
So do they have to get Medicare Part B?
So if somebody has an employer plan that meets it,
I'm gonna have them call
we're gonna get
Medicare.
into technical terms here. If they have a QHP, which is a qualifying health care plan,
Mm-hmm.
then they're okay as far as penalties and things like that. If they want to move into a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare Supplement or something like that, they do need to put their Part B in place. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like I was telling Sarah Jane, you have to kind of figure out when that time frame is. So right now is technically open enrollment. So yes, they can do that now, and it would become effective soon. If it's later in the year, then things get a little different. We'll probably touch on
Uh,
that on another call, but
yeah. She'll turn 65 in April. So she received the card out in California. So she received the card. So that's why they're having the conversation. Can I ask another question about Part D? So if they have A and B, but when they sign up, maybe they have creditable coverage. Um, we but they never, or maybe they did or didn't. And like I have someone that didn't sign up for Part D, they didn't have coverage, so they have to pay a penalty, correct?
Credible coverage would mean that their plan meets 13 different criteria, and one of those is having drug coverage that's credible coverage.
Okay, right.
If they don't have that, then they're already in trouble, right?
Okay.
So you need to start moving them quickie.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I think the with the two questions, all my stuff is answered. So I'll let someone go. Thank you. Someone else go next. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. I think Connie was next, and then Patrina will be after that.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
Have a
Connie.
question. Have a friend who has a daughter who is 27, accident, quadriplegic, and I know there's criterias, um, for her to be under 65. Can you tell me? I mean, I've Googled it and I've read up on it, but I need to ask the master.
Not sure what the question is.
Oh, that's sorry. And would she qualify for Medicare?
Quadriplegic probably would. So here's how people under 65 um, get on Medicare. They have to apply for Social Security disability and get approved. Once they are on Social Security disability for 24 months, they automatically gain Medicare Part A and Part B. There are some instances where when they gain their Social Security, Medicare is automatic, and that may be the case for the quadriplegic. But
They
in general, somebody who applies for Social Security disability and gets approved, once they're approved, there's a 24-month waiting period before they get Medicare.
Okay, so she tried to get disability and she had not worked enough quarters apparently to get on disability.
She should still fall underneath a parent that did qualify, I would assume.
A parent that did qualify?
Yeah, so for example, let's say that somebody's born on the spectrum, right? And their
Mm.
IQ is low enough. Let's say their IQ places them at a 7-year-old level, right? Not a person who is able to join the workforce. Um, from the time that they are diagnosed, they can apply for Social Security. Now, I will tell you, Social Security is a pain in the butt, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Most people, almost all people, 99.9% of the people who apply for Social Security disability will get approved at least 2 times, or I mean, get disapproved
Right.
twice, and they have to go to an appeal process. Once they go to an appeal, that's when people start actually getting onto Social Security disability. So if somebody doesn't have enough personal quarters uh, and they have a parent figure that has, normally what will happen is they will fall under the parent figure that it has the 40 quarters. So that would be something that I would have them inquire about with Social Security.
Okay, so if the one of the parents has enough quarters, I mean, they both worked 30 years and they just retired.
Then that'd be fine. Yeah, 10 years is the magic number.
Right. So then she might be able to go under one of her parents
Correct.
to get.
They would absorb benefits underneath a father or a mother figure. Correct.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would also probably recommend having that person get a Social Security disability lawyer. Um, Social Security disability lawyers are able to take 25% of back payments up to $7,200, right? Um, Outside of that, they can work as hard and do as many things as they want to do, and Social Security limits what they can take, right? So somebody in that situation where it's going to probably take a lot of work, um, tell them to get a Social Security lawyer. And Connie, since you're in Florida, if you need a name, I have one. I
Well,
could pass on to you.
they're in Virginia.
Okay. I don't know anybody in Virginia.
Okay.
But there are Social Security disability lawyers across the U.S. Because Social Security is a pain in the bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from you?
I think that should do it.
Cool. Okay, Katrina, I think you are next up.
Okay, my question is if somebody has the job insurance that they have kept past the age of 65 and they've been on that insurance and they decide that they want to look at Medicare Advantage to see if it has better coverage for them, can you enroll them outside of AEP or OEP to change plan if they decide they want to, or do you have to wait?
So it depends on the client. If the client cancels their insurance, keep in mind one of the SCPs is loss of coverage, right? So if the coverage is canceled, it's loss, right? But with a client like that, you do need to make sure that they already have Part A and B in place. If not, you're going to run into some really sticky situations,
Okay.
right? But if you want to go over and show them the differences between what they have and what Medicare Advantage would offer, um, you might have to work with them for a couple of months while they figure out what they want to do and they contact their HR and cancel their coverage and everything else and contact Medicare and let them know that their coverage will end on this date. They don't have to tell Social Security that they canceled it themselves. All they got to do is say, hey, look, my coverage ends on May 31st. I need Medicare for June 1st, right? So, yes, you can definitely work with them.
Okay. Okay. And I forgot my other question. Okay. Okay. That sounds
Okay,
good. Thank you.
sure. While you're thinking about your other questions, Stacy asked, why wouldn't they stay with the employer plan? Well, sometimes employer plans are not as good as Medicare plans. Sometimes employer plans require Part B for them to be active, and then they don't look as good as Medicare Advantage. So, um, to answer your question, Stacy, a lot of times, and this is probably true for about 70% of the employer plans that are out there, they don't look as good as Medicare Advantage. Even though they have to pay the $170 for Part B, some of the plans require them to do that anyway. So hopefully that answers your question.
Good afternoon. My question is this. I have a young man that is, I thought Connie was going to kind of touch on it. The young man is, he'll be 22 in November of this year. So at
Okay.
this particular time, he is on disability. He's autistic and he's been on disability. Now he's Medicare, Medicaid disability now for 2 years.
Okay.
With what's going on in Florida, where we actually have that ability to write people or whatever. His doctor office just went out of business, and they're closing their office. Can
Okay.
he move now to something else? Because the plan he's on, it was just automatically assigned to him. It's not something that he chose.
Okay, there's a lot in what you just said there. The plan he's on, so the plan he's on is just a drug plan alone?
No, he has Medicare and Medicaid. So
Okay.
when he went to the doctor that he's going to now, originally he thought he was with oh God, what's the name of that? It was a supplemental program that came over from the state, Sunshine Health.
Okay.
That's what he
So
thought.
it's a
He had Sunshine Health.
Medicaid.
But
It's a
he has
Medicaid plan.
right, but now he has Medicare
Okay.
because when he called, when his parent had called concerning um the billing, they told her he could go to any doctor he chose because he's on straight Medicare. So at this point, with the doctor going out of business, what do we do?
Okay.
Or can
So
I do anything to help them?
absolutely. So that's a dual Medicare. If they have the Sunshine Health, they are full
Yes.
Medicaid, which means that they are QMB plus. And so you can use your full dual or your dual eligible SEP,
Mm-hmm.
right? And put them into a plan that makes sense. And you can even find a doctor for them, right? So if you find what part of the what part of Florida are you in?
Port Charlotte, Northport, Sarasota.
Okay,
So
so tons
Sarasota
of doctors.
County or Charlotte
Yeah.
County?
So tons of doctors out there, right? So
Yes.
I would say this is a great example of where that spreadsheet would come into play, right? Like, okay, you're on a plan, which actually he probably had like a $2 copay for that doctor, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
due.
Right.
Putting him on a full Medicaid, Medicare plan combines those benefits. So it takes away that $2 copay,
Right.
but it also gives him other benefits he didn't have with the straight Medicaid and Medicare. So even though he had a plan from Medicaid, the Medicare plan is going to be even better. But now we need to find a new doctor. And so if you find a plan, and you're probably going to be looking at ancillary benefits to maximize what you can do for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you go into there, then start finding doctors. And the way I would do that is I would go into the portal of the plan that I thought it was best and then do a doctor search near his house and then give him 3 or 4 options. You know, I've got these doctors that are close to you. Do you want to try one? Do you not want any of the people that I listed, right? And kind of go from there. But
Okay.
you'll be doing him a favor by giving him more benefits by combining his Medicare and Medicaid. A lot of people
Right.
get
Because
confused
he's
because they have
getting
straight
nothing extra.
Medicare. Right. They've got straight Medicare and then they've got a Medicaid plan. And then they're like, well, I only paid $2 to go to the doctor, but I've got this and that and the other. But when you combine them, you're getting two different sources of income per se for one person. And so their benefits are much, much richer. And so that's the way I would explain it to them. And then the only thing we need to do is find them a doctor. And then we'll
Right.
find a plan that doctor accepts.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see Patrina and one other still. So
My question was, and I think you answered it with Stacy. If they're still working and they're paying for their insurance out of their check and they turn 65, they can cancel that insurance with the job and go to Medicare and just pay the 170 and get the Medicare Advantage plan.
mhm.
Okay. Okay. I
Just
told this
keep in
lady.
mind, yeah. So just keep in mind, and I tell this to all the clients, right? If you have group coverage and you come off of that group coverage, the employer does not have to take you back onto the group coverage. So if it makes sense to move, it makes sense to move. There shouldn't be any problem. Like if they're paying $400 to be on their plan and it's not as good as Medicare, why would you not move?
Mhm.
If they're not paying anything because the company is completely supplementing the cost and they don't even have to put their Part B in place, you might want to leave that person where they're at. You know what I mean? So you got to look at what they have compared to what you could give them.
Until
Okay. Well, if not, then let me
One,
just kind of
one,
summarize real quick.
one question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask if these trainings they have, whether they schedule like every Monday, do they have particular special days or particular days on which they are scheduled?
The trainings that I do,
Now, maybe not you, but for LBA, all the trainings with LBA, everyone has their own training time.
well, I am the LBA trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So my trainings, going forward until we change again, because this is change number 3, right? Will be Tuesdays at 5:30. Um, that's the time that we feel is the least, um, it gets in the way of the least amount of things that is within the Better Network right now. So we chose to move it to Tuesdays so that we could free up some people that were doing some other things on Wednesdays. So LBA training will be Tuesdays at 5:30. Now, anything that Spark does, for example, Sunfire training, which I guess you can consider part of LBA, I don't train on. So you'd have to go through Spark to find out what their time frames on that is on that. But I believe that they still do Sunfire training Wednesdays at noon, unless they have made a change to that.
What is Sunfire training? This is Tuma.
Yeah, so Sunfire is the portal that you use to do, it's just like a quoting tool. So once
Okay.
you, so Tuma, I'm going to have to assume that you're not appointed or haven't gotten far enough along with Spark to be in getting the communication about the Sunfire training, but they
Mm-hmm.
should be emailing you when they offer that.
Okay.
And if they haven't, and you are certified to sell with at least 2 carriers, then what I need you to do is send a ticket into support at legacybenefitalliance.com so we can yell at them.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
great. All right. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So let me go ahead and summarize. We're about 4 after. We're going to close it out at 5 after, and I'm going to do a good job today being on time. Since I was about 5 minutes getting into everybody being on here. So we will do exactly 1 hour today. Um, we are finishing up OEP. So anybody who has a Medicare Advantage plan, you have until the end of the month to go ahead and move them to the final plan choice for this year. If you have already submitted an application and you found that there is a different plan that is a better choice, have them cancel their application that you put in this month and resubmit OEP as your SEP for the other plan. That is totally acceptable, right? We're going to get into rest of year. So your primary focuses will be 3 groups: turning 65, low income, or what we call DSNPs, and then your chronic illnesses, which are CSNPs. We've got a lot of recorded training already on a lot of that stuff. So if you're not familiar with those terms, go into the YouTube or no, we just moved it. Go into the trainings that we have on the LBA channel, I believe. I forget what it is. I'm sorry. But go into those trainings and watch them. And then, as always, I put my number in the chat here. If you come into a situation that you're not sure of, let's say you meet with a client, they're just not happy with their plan, and you need to make a change, and you don't find a special enrollment period. I am really, really good at what I do. I can almost guarantee that I will find you a special enrollment period. So just because OEP is ending doesn't mean that you can't help clients. And I want you to always remember that. Our team will almost always be able to be the people to switch somebody into another plan, regardless of what time of year it is. Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the call. I want to thank you all for being on. This call is recorded. It'll be put into where we hold and host our other recordings. I don't remember where that is, but I know it's in the new agent guide. So if you don't know where to go, look at the new agent guide, click into that, and it'll show you where to go to get that. But there are some videos in there that you may want to take a look at. Dual eligible, chronic needs, marketing strategies, all those things that you probably have questions, especially if you're new, they will give you a jump start. Okay. Otherwise, everybody, thank you for being on and have the great rest of your week. And we'll see you next Tuesday at 5:30.